Derrick Lawson had never been the kind of man who expected trouble. He lived his life the way he was raised: honest, hardworking, respectful. He fixed things for a living: the streetlights, wiring, anything the city needed. If something broke, Derrick was the one they called. He worked late shifts, long hours, and came home tired but proud. So on the night everything fell apart, the last thing on his mind was danger. The rain was coming down in steady sheets when Derrick finally parked his work truck. His clothes were damp, and the smell of wet asphalt clung to him. Inside, the house was warm and filled with the comfort he longed for. His daughter Ava sat at the dining table, her pencil tapping anxiously as she worked through her math homework. His son, Jordan, rummaged through the kitchen cabinets looking for snacks. Lila smiled at him when he walked in, her eyes soft with relief. "Long day?" she asked. "Longest," he sighed, dropping his toolbox near the door. He didn't even get to sit before everything changed. Sirens sliced through the calm like knives. Not one, not two, multiple. Cars pulled up so abruptly that tires screeched loud enough to make Ava jump from her seat. Blue and red lights flashed through every window. The neighbors' porch lights flicked on one by one as people peeked outside. Derrick's heartbeat quickened. "What the hell?" he murmured. Before anyone could process anything, the front door shuddered under violent pounding. "Police! Open the door!" Lila gasped. Ava screamed. Jordan ran to his father. Derrick raised his hands instinctively, confused, terrified, and sure what was happening but believing that if he stayed calm, everything would be okay. He was wrong. The door flew open with a splintering crack. Officers stormed the living room with guns drawn, shouting commands he could barely understand. "Get on the ground. Hands up. Don't move." It all came at him like rapid fire. Derrick froze, stunned. "Wait, I live here. What's going on?" But the moment he spoke, they rushed him, forcing him to the floor with so much force that pain shot through his shoulder and ribs. His kids screamed for him, begging the officers to stop. Lila tried to reach him, but an officer pushed her back. Within seconds, Derrick was cuffed and dragged out into the pouring rain, shoved into the back of a squad car like a criminal. His neighbors stared from behind curtains, some whispering, some shaking their heads, all judging without knowing a thing. At the police station, the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry insects. Derrick sat in a cold metal chair, shivering from the rain and from fear. He had never been arrested before. He didn't even have a speeding ticket. But the detective who entered the room treated him like a seasoned criminal. "You really thought you were gonna get away with this, Lawson?" he said, dropping a file on the table. Derrick didn't respond. He was too shocked, too overwhelmed to speak. The detective flipped the file open. Inside was a still image pulled from a surveillance video: a figure in a dark hoodie striking a convenience store clerk with a crowbar. The face was impossible to see clearly, just a blurred shape under shadows. "That's you," the detective said confidently. "That's not me," Derrick said, fear tightening his throat. "I was at work. On a call across town." The detective leaned back, smirking. "Everyone has an excuse. Yours is just bad." Derrick tried to explain, to reason, to beg them to check the logs from his truck, his supervisor, the streetlight repair system. But it didn't matter. They didn't listen. They had decided who he was before he even opened his mouth. His first hearing was a blur of humiliation. He saw Lila's tear-streaked face in the courtroom. His public defender spoke in a defeated tone, explaining the prosecution's strong evidence, a shaky eyewitness account, and a grainy video. The teenager who claimed to see the robber pointed to Derrick timidly and said, "I think that's him. Just I think." And yet it was enough for the room to absorb guilt as truth. Bail was far too high. Derrick was forced back to jail, where sleepless nights made him question everything. How did this happen? Why him? Would anyone ever believe him? Days later, Monique visited him. His sister's voice trembled as she explained that his employer had suspended him. Bills were piling up. And worse, some neighbors were already telling people Derrick must have done something. The pain in Derrick's chest grew heavier. The shame, though unearned, clung to him like a stain he couldn't wash off. But one thought kept him alive: the construction site's new security cameras. The footage had to exist. It had to prove he was innocent. Monique took it upon herself to find answers. She visited the site, spoke with supervisors, and demanded they check the footage. 2 days later, the site manager called her back with the same rehearsed line: "The files from that night are missing." some kind of technical error. It felt like a punch to Derrick's gut. Missing, just like that. But then a whisper of hope. An IT technician from the site contacted Monique privately. His voice was shaky, frightened. He confessed that the footage was not missing at all. Two police officers had shown up days after the incident, asking him to delete specific time frames. They said it was part of their investigation, but something felt off. They were aggressive, threatening, insistent. Fearing for his job, he pretended to do it. But instead of deleting the footage, he saved a copy onto a flash drive and hid it. "I didn't know what to do," he told Monique, trembling. "But I couldn't let an innocent man take the fall." When Derrick heard this, he felt hope flare inside him, bright, desperate, and dangerous. His lawyer hesitated, warning that accusing police of tampering could blow up the case in unpredictable ways. But Derrick had reached the point where fear no longer mattered. "Use it," he said. "Fight with it." The next court hearing was a tense spectacle. The prosecutor entered confident, ready to push Derrick into a plea deal he didn't deserve. But Derrick's lawyer stood and called an unexpected witness, the IT technician. The courtroom buzzed with confusion as the young man took the stand. Clutching the flash drive like a lifeline, his voice shook as he revealed everything: the officer's visit, their demand to destroy evidence, the threats, and the backup he secretly made. Gasps rippled through the room. The prosecutor immediately objected, claiming the technician was lying, the evidence forged. But the judge, sensing something deeper, ordered a recess so forensic analysts could inspect the footage. Those 30 minutes felt like 30 years. Derrick sat beside Lila, his hands shaking. The prosecutor paced like a man watching his case crumble. The technician sat rigid and pale, bracing for backlash. The courtroom murmured like a hive of bees. When the judge returned, the courtroom fell silent. The footage was authentic and tampered, time-stamped, clear. It showed Derrick working at the construction site at the exact time of the robbery. The judge's expression hardened with anger, not at Derrick, but at the system that almost destroyed him. He ordered an immediate review of the officer's conduct. Internal affairs moved quickly, suspending the officers on the spot. The prosecutor found himself under scrutiny for withholding exculpatory evidence and leaning on a case built on lies. And then, after weeks of fear, pain, humiliation, and despair, the judge dismissed all charges. The sound of Lila's sobs echoed through the courtroom. Monique rushed to her brother, holding him tight. Derrick stood there, stunned, as the cuffs were finally removed from his wrists. He walked out of that courthouse a free man, but not an untouched one. Freedom was only the beginning. Returning home came with new challenges. Some neighbors apologized shyly. Others avoided him entirely. His children struggled to understand how something so unfair could happen to someone so good. Derrick battled anxiety every night, waking up drenched in sweat, hearing the echo of the battering ram that broke his door. He had his freedom, but trauma clung to him like a shadow. Still, Derrick refused to stay silent. When a local advocacy group invited him to speak, Derrick hesitated. Public attention felt overwhelming, but he knew his voice could help others. And so he stood before a crowded community center, his hands shaking, his voice cracking as he recounted every painful detail: the wrongful arrest, the ignored alibi, the missing footage, the officers who tried to erase the truth, the courage of a technician who risked everything. The room was silent when he finished. Then applause erupted loud, unrestrained, emotional. People shared his story. Journalists called. Civil rights leaders reached out. Derrick's experience became a rallying cry for reform. He didn't seek fame, but it found him anyway. He became a symbol of resilience, a reminder of how fragile justice could be, and how easily innocent lives could be crushed. Months later, on a warm Saturday morning, Derrick stood in his driveway watching Ava and Jordan play basketball. Their laughter carried through the air, bright and healing. Lyle walked up beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. "You're finally smiling again," she said softly. Derrick nodded, eyes lingering on his children. "I'm trying," he whispered. One day at a time. He knew there were still battles ahead. Trauma didn't vanish overnight. Trust wasn't instantly rebuilt. But he had something back that he once feared was lost forever: his life. And with it came a promise: no one would ever silence him again.